Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros. This is the Fantasy Football Podcast. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, and today we're back in them mock draft streets. That's right, the dust has just about settled, with the exception of a few old fart quarterbacks we're still waiting on, but now we have a much better idea of what teams really have in the way of needs heading into the NFL draft, which is just a few weeks away, if you can believe it. And to help us go through these two rounds of an NFL mock draft, D-Bro, Derek Brown, the King of Bros, and my patty cakes, Pat Fitzmaurice. We're going to go through, make the picks, and gentlemen, it's been a very exciting free agency. Lots of movement, lots of shakeups, lots of new quarterbacks too, in new places. Here's my big question for you guys. This is just for the table. Anybody can pick it up. Why the hell do we call it legal tampering if it's legal? Tampering sounds like a bad thing. Why don't we just call it free agency and stop calling it something stupid?
Yeah,
the silence is deafening. The silence says it all, everybody.
It's because it's the damn NFL, dude. That's why.
So they make them wait until the new league year begins till they can officially sign the new contracts, but they can announce them 2 weeks earlier. Exactly. Why not move the league year 2 days earlier? It's sort of the concept of the amplifiers in Spinal Tap, Joe, that go to 11.
These go up to 11, Pat.
Why not just make 10 louder and have 10 be the loudest number? These go to 11.
They go up to 11. That's why.
When you're the NFL and you can drag out like 2 or 3 days of heavy news into like a full week of NFL news, you got it, right?
That the dragging of the news I got no problem with. It's the verbiage of tampering. So let's call it, here's an idea. NFL, how about legal negotiation period? Doesn't that sound much better? Tampering sounds like some horrible things are going on. But nothing horrible is going to happen here. At least I don't think so. We'll see how the picks go. So we're going to run through here. And so far, everybody's still got their picks. It feels so weird to think that every NFL team has a pick in the first round. It's something like I hardly ever see nowadays. So let's just kick things off here with the top with number 1, the Tennessee Titans. Derek Brown, you are on the clock.
Let's keep it easy, boys. Tennessee needs a quarterback. I'm going to give him my QB1 of this class. Shedeur Sanders, quarterback out of Colorado. Come on down. Give Callahan competent quarterback with upside play this year.
Okay, so why is Shedeur the guy, not Cam Ward, if you're looking for a quarterback at 1?
I think Shedeur presents the highest floor option, and plus, you look at the accuracy. He's plug and play for Callahan's offense. Cam Ward does the off-script stuff. Sanders can do that, but if you're looking for a quarterback who's going to keep the offense on schedule, deliver accurate passes, and as well as be a franchise changer, Shedeur Sanders checks all those boxes.
Does Will Levis stay put, or does he get traded if Shedeur Sanders is the guy?
He'll stay put because nobody wants him. So
fair enough. Pat Fitzmaurice, I want you to make a pick for me here. Number 2, the Cleveland Browns are up next. Where do they go with Shedeur off the board?
We're going to start quarterback, Joe. It's going to be Cam Ward, the Browns. I mean, you are nowhere without a quarterback in the NFL, so it's hard to see the Browns bypassing a quarterback at number 2. And I'm actually with D-Bro. I do prefer Shedeur Sanders to Cam Ward. I think we're both maybe running counter to most NFL teams on that, but I do feel like Ward might be the better fit for the Browns because he has a stronger arm than Shedeur, and Huntington Bank Field is the NFL's windiest stadium. And Ward has the arm strength to zip passes through those gusts off Lake Erie.
You know, it's funny. When you said Huntington Bank Field, you said it so quickly, it sounded like a person. Did you get that? D-Bro said, Huntington Bank Field. It sounds like somebody you went to you just played 18 holes with.
Sounds like out of Trading Places or
Yeah, right. It's absolutely trading. One of the guys in the, oh my God, one of the guys in the stock market.
Concentrate orange juice is going up today, boys.
God, I just saw that over the holidays. Still good. Pretty funny. Still holds up. All right, so the 2 quarterbacks off the board first. This is a little crazy because the best player, in my opinion, in the NFL draft is still up there. Now, the guys make a good case here where these 2 quarterbacks could still go 1 and 2, especially when we consider the need of both these teams, and what's left out there on the quarterback pile is not good. It's old veteran quarterbacks that seem like they're done and dusted. So the Giants are up next. D-Bro, does that mean a foregone conclusion that Abdul Carter is the guy?
You better believe it, Joey. Team him with Brian Burns. And I think if any one of these top teams are going to go for the old quarterback, I don't think it's going to be Cleveland. I do think that the Giants could definitely go that direction, whether it's Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers. So quarterback's probably not going to fit their bill, but because the fact of the matter is, if they don't win this year, or at least get close to winning, then GM is gone, head coach is gone. So they're playing for the jobs here. But Aldo Carter still makes a ton of sense, man. Team him with Brian Burns, go get after the quarterback for a defense that ranked 18th in pressure rate last year, despite a top 10 blitz rate. They need to pressure the quarterback.
Don't forget Kirk Cousins. He's still available too, I hear. Yeah. Just saying.
Well, I hear he's not going anywhere out of Atlanta, but that can change very quickly.
Sure he's not. All right, so there you go. So the Giants, maybe the second coming of Lawrence Taylor. Who knows? That puts my New England Patriots up. I was hoping Carter might make it to them, but considering how much they spent on linebacker in free agency, I think they know Abdul Carter's not making it to them. So where does New England pivot Pat Fitzmaurice here at 4?
Well, Joe, the Patriots have been pretty busy in free agency so far, but they have not done much to patch up a terrible offensive line yet. They did sign right tackle Morgan Moses, but he just turned 34. New England appears to have found its franchise quarterback in Drake Maye. They have to protect Drake Maye. So they take the top offensive tackle in the draft. They're going to take Will Campbell, the offensive tackle from LSU. Campbell solidified his early first-round draft status with a phenomenal performance at the Combine. His relative athletic score of 9.88, 17th best among the nearly 1,400 offensive linemen to have tested at the Combine since 1987. This is kind of a need pick, Joe, but Campbell, you can absolutely justify as a top 5 pick.
Well, look at the impact last year that when Alt got taken, all of a sudden you're protecting Justin Herbert. Next thing you know, that team went from awful to a playoffs. So, big jump there. Smart pick. Great pick. I'm very happy. I'm warm and fuzzy about this one. At 5, the Jacksonville Jaguars are up. Back to you, Derek.
Let's give him Travis Hunter. Wide receiver, cornerback out of Colorado. Regardless of whatever position he plays, he's going to be a difference maker on either side of the ball. We can debate it over and over and over again about what he does, where he plays snaps at. I'm projecting him to be a full-time cornerback and sprinkle in snaps as a wide receiver in that ilk. I mean, come on. Jacksonville gave up the most passing yards in the NFL, bottom 5 in touchdowns given up as well through the air. They need a running mate for Tyson Campbell, and it's not like they don't need another playmaker on the offensive side opposite Brian Thomas Jr. either.
So really the correct emphasis for the question mark is on wide receiver, not cornerback? Just saying, because you did it with the cornerback with the question mark. It should be Travis Hunter, cornerback, wide receiver? Okay. What do you think, Pat? You think that's true? You think he's more of a corner than a wide receiver at the NFL level, or does Jacksonville really try to double dip with him?
Yeah, I do, Joe. I think he's cornerback primarily, and maybe he plays somewhere from 20% to 40% of the offensive snaps for whichever team. That's easier than having him be a full-time wide receiver, an occasional cornerback, because are you really, if you're a team, are you going to want to play your best cornerback only a partial share of the time? You're going to want him on the field constantly, whereas I think it's a little easier to keep yourself in check and use him on a limited basis offensively. So I don't know. That just seems like it's going to be the way to go. It was sort of the way that they treated Charles Woodson way back in the day when he came out of Michigan. Yeah. Although I know Woodson was not quite the full-time player on offense in college that Hunter is coming out.
Yeah, that's a good comparison there. That's a fun one. From the old days. All right, the Las Vegas Raiders are up next, Pat, on the board at 6. They've got their quarterback now in Geno Smith. So where do they go from here?
Yeah, speaking of Charles Woodson, we go to the Raiders. The Raiders got a first-round gem in tight end Brock Bowers last year, and now, Joe, they go out and get a number 1 receiver, Teteroa McMillan, the wide receiver from Arizona, 6'4". He has been a prolific pass catcher for Arizona the last couple of years. McMillan's 219 pounds, just built to handle a heavy load. His ball skills are terrific. The easy comp, I think, is Drake London. Just this big physical receiver. And with Bowers at tight end, Tet McMillan and Jacoby Myers at receiver, new addition, Geno Smith at quarterback, suddenly the Raiders passing game has some juice.
Yeah, it certainly could. Geno's not great, but he is certainly an improvement over everything they've had the last 2 years. Next up, the Jets, who also have a new quarterback, as predicted here on the channel by me, Joe Pisapia. Months ago, I told you it was going to go down for better or worse. And it happened. So Justin Fields is the new QB. You've got an interesting offense. Is going to certainly be mobile and young and more athletic. So do you go to the defensive side of the football here, Derek?
Look, Aaron Glenn is going to be cutting backflips in the draft room. Give them Mason Graham, defensive tackle out of Michigan. You pair him with Quinnen Williams, and we're talking about massive upgrades, not only to interior pressure, the pass rush, but the run defense, which kind of fell off last year, guys. 16th in rushing yards allowed per game. Mason Graham is a difference maker.
All right, let's see if there's a difference maker. And the next pick here after the Jets are up, back to the Carolina Panthers at 8. Pat, where do they go?
They go defense, Joe. Jalen Walker from Georgia. Walker's sort of a tweener. He's like a linebacker who can come off the edge, but regardless of how you want to categorize him, Walker is a heat-seeking missile who is always getting to the football. He's been a team leader at Georgia, so he's just what the Panthers need in their locker room. Walker is also from North Carolina and still has his entire family there, so it just seems like a great fit for the Panthers.
Okay, so a good fit for the Panthers there. Next up after the Panthers at 9, the New Orleans Saints. D-Bro, a team that needs a lot, so where do you want to start?
Going to give them edge Mike Green out of Marshall. Cam Jordan isn't getting any younger. Carl Granderson's entering his age 29 season, and they can get out of his contract after next year. This all comes down to the Saints have to pressure the quarterback better than they did last year. A lot of different ways. I know they have a lot of different needs, but bringing Juwan Johnson back kind of takes them out of the tight end pool and stuff like that. And I think they already have enough playmakers on the offensive side. So definitely, if you can rush the passer a little bit better, get better in the trenches, can make the easier time for Kellen Moore in his first year.
The Bears at 10, Pat, they've gone a long way this offseason to remake an, again, awful offensive line. That being said now, do they have a vanity pick in them potentially here for another offensive weapon for Ben Johnson?
I think they might, Joe. We're going to give the Bears running back Ashton Genty of Boise State. Yeah, so you said it, Joe. Now that the Bears have totally refurbished the interior of that offensive line, which they really, really needed to patch up. That was priority one in the offseason. While also adding a couple of pieces to their defensive line, they don't have that many screaming needs in the draft, and they can afford this luxury pick. So everyone knows what an extraordinary running back prospect Genty is. He put up video game numbers at Boise State last season. 2,600 yards rushing, 30 total touchdowns. His contact balance is just otherworldly. I don't think the Bears want DeAndre Swift to be their lead running back. Swift was the Lions' lead running back in Ben Johnson's first year as Detroit's offensive coordinator, and the Lions immediately kicked Swift to the curb after that season. So Genty becomes Ben Johnson's new lead back, and this offense has a world of potential if they can just get Caleb Williams going.
Yeah, certainly a good job by them remaking that offensive line. Genty in Chicago would be certainly a good, fun time. Let's get to San Francisco at 11. Somebody needs to shake these guys and wake them up and tell them it's the NFL offseason, D-Bro, because they're just losing players left and right. This organization, I think, is hanging on by a thread. So what do we have to do to thread the needle for a pick here?
They need to go cornerback here. We're going to give them Will Johnson, cornerback out of Michigan. Robert Saleh back in the house. This is just screams cornerback pick here. Losing Javarius Ward. Mm-hmm. You have a starting trio of Johnson, Lenore, and Renardo Green. Not too shabby, man. Not too shabby.
Yeah, they lost Hufanga too. They lost Greenlaw. I mean, a lot of pieces here, and it's an older team that's had a lot of injuries. I'm telling you, on the precipice. I hope it goes well for them, but if it doesn't, it would not be shocking. Dallas, also a team that seems to be unsure about where it wants to go. At 12, Pat, where do you think they go with this pick?
We're going to go edge. There are a bunch of different ways the Cowboys could go here, Joe, but we're going to give them an edge. Shamar Stewart of Texas A&M. They're going to stay in state here. He's a big edge defender, 6'5", 267 was his combine weight, but the Aggies listed him at 290. And now some people are going to balk at this because Stewart never had, all three of his college seasons, he had 1.5 sacks, each of those 3 years at College Station. But that was largely because of the role he was being asked to play for A&M. Stewart posted a perfect 10 relative athletic score at the combine, best ever in combine testing among edge rushers. This dude is a physical marvel, and I think he's going to have a lot of appeal if he's there for Dallas at 12.
Next up at 13, the Miami Dolphins. D-Bro, you're on the clock.
They need offensive line help. I mean, so I'm going to give them offensive tackle out of Mizzou, Armand Membu. Like, move Austin Jackson to guard where he played in 2021, upgrade this offensive line. They gave it the 14th highest pressure rate over expected last year. Big need, and Mimbu feels it for the Dolphins.
At 14, the Indianapolis Colts are up next. So I guess one of the bigger moves was bringing in Daniel Jones potentially to compete with Anthony Richardson. So no matter who's under center, are we going offense here potentially, Pat, with this pick?
Yeah, we are, Joe. We're going to give Indy Tyler Warren, the tight end from Penn State. The Colts really do need a tight end, and Warren is a beast. He's got a George Kittle type of game, just an absolute monster after the catch, and he's a willing and able blocker. Tyler Warren's just such a physical player. He'll be a nice addition to the Colts offense.
Next up, the Atlanta Falcons, Debro at 15.
They need pass rush, and I'm going to give it to him, man. James Pierce Jr., come on down, edge out of Tennessee. We're talking about a defense that had the 8th lowest pressure rate last year, 2nd fewest sacks. Yeah, he feels a need here. And Pierce is a really talented player, dude. Like 5th in pass rush win rate last year, tied with Abdul Carter in hurries. To get him in the middle of the first round feels, I'm not going to say like a steal, but I wouldn't be surprised if he goes a little bit higher than this when all is said and done in the draft.
Next up here, Cincinnati, at 16, the Arizona Cardinals. Back to you, Pat.
Can we get 2 Michigan defensive tackles in the first half of the first round? We can, Joe. It's going to be Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle of Michigan, going to the Cardinals. The Cardinals need an anchor in the middle of their defensive line. Grant is 6'4", 330, extremely strong and powerful, just country strong. Let's give Arizona a big brute up front.
Okay, the big brute up front is there. Another defensive tackle here from Michigan. Let's go to the Cincinnati Bengals next on our list. Before we do, quick reminder right now, the NBA season is hot, and there are plenty of new ways to get on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. From Monster Slams to dishing the rock to cleaning the glass, get behind your favorite NBA players and the prop bets you can make on DraftKings, the home of NBA player props. Take it to the rack with DraftKings Sportsbook. Every point counts. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use that promo code FANTASYPROS. That's code FANTASYPROS. For new customers, you get 150 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Let's crown somebody for the Cincinnati Bengals. Derek Brown at 17.
2 big needs for this team, outside of paying their players that they already have on the roster, would be corner and edge. Few different guys that could fit if we went edge here, but I'm going to go corner, man. Jahdae Barron out of Texas, come on down. DJ Turner, Cam Taylor-Britt were not good last year. Even if those are going to be the starters, you could move Barron to nickel and play him there for a player that's incredibly talented. Allowed only a 34.2 passer rating in coverage last year. Definitely feels the need for the Bengals.
Next up at 18, the Seattle Seahawks in a spot now where Sam Darnold will be playing quarterback. DK Metcalf is on. So on his way to Pittsburgh, very different looking team, I think, than we saw 2 years ago. This roster's really turned over with the new regime. So, Pat, that being said, where do the Seahawks go? Do they go to the offensive line to protect Sam Darnold?
They do. Kelvin Banks, offensive tackle, Texas. And maybe he winds up at guard in the NFL. We'll see. But I do think it's a mortal lock that the Seahawks' first pick is an offensive lineman. I would bet my meager life savings on that, Joe. And I think the Seahawks would be delighted to get Banks at 18. He just turned 21, and yet he was a 3-year starter for the Longhorns. Really athletic. I think Banks is going to be a high-quality NFL pass blocker.
Next up at Tampa at 19. Now, this is a team that got Chris Godwin to come back. So, Debro, does that mean they go on the defensive side of the football for this first-round pick?
They do, Joe. We're going to give Mykel Williams, edge out of Georgia. Kalijah Cansey's not been the guy. I know Tampa Bay's pass rush was pretty good last year, 9th in pressure rate, but look, we know Bowles loves the blitz, but 3rd highest blitz rate. Give them a real guy that can bring the heat to a quarterback and back off the blitz rate just a little bit in 2025.
At 20, the Denver Broncos ended up actually signing a tight end. So offense looks like, now with Evan Ingram there, another low A. King, perfect for Bo Nix. You're in a situation now, it seems like maybe defense is the way they would go as well. Pat, you think offense or defense for this pick here at 20 for Denver?
Yeah, Denver could maybe go wide receiver here. They could maybe go safety, but I'm actually going to give them a linebacker, Jahad Campbell from Alabama. Campbell's a sideline-to-sideline linebacker. I know the Broncos just signed Dre Greenlaw, but Greenlaw only played 2 games last season, spent most of the year recovering from a torn Achilles, then injured his calf in his second game back. So Jahad Campbell would give Denver some insurance in case Greenlaw can't stay healthy. But if Greenlaw does stay healthy, he and Campbell could give the Broncos one of the best linebacker duos in the league.
All right, the Pittsburgh Steelers are up next at 21. Debro, as of recording this right now, we don't have any quarterback really to speak of there to start, at least not in my opinion. Some of the veterans are still floating out there. So is it time for them to take a shot? I know a couple years ago they took a shot on Kenny Pickett, and that was a bad situation. We all know that did not work out. So do they have a little, I don't know, beggar's remorse here, buyer's remorse, where they don't want to make that same mistake twice and take a QB, or do they take the plunge with a guy like Jackson Dart?
Well, they are learning from their previous mistakes. They took a not very talented quarterback in the first round last time. We are giving them a talented quarterback this time in Jackson Dart. Airdrop the rookie quarterback into this. They just re-signed Mason Rudolph, so you have some insurance there. Maybe he doesn't start week 1, but by the middle of the season, he is starting. He is under center. And you've added DK Metcalf. You got George Pickens. Jalen Warren's back. Pat Fryermuth. Like, there's offensive weapons to be had. The defense is ready to go, man. Like, this is a team where they can catch lightning in a bottle. I'm not telling you Jaden Daniels, but could this guy, team actually go to the playoffs with the rookie quarterback and maybe win a game? Possible.
Look, I'd much rather them do this if you were going to fumble the ball with Justin Fields and, just kind of throw in the towel with the veterans. Pat, to me, this makes sense too. You might as well give it a shot and see if you can get a second life here with a quarterback. Maybe you land on the right one. What do you think of Dart here at 21? Too soon? Or do you think it's a good fit here for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
No, this seems like about where Jackson Dart should go. I mean, I think he's sort of a borderline first rounder. Debro likes him a little more than I do, but I do think this beats the retread quarterback approach for Pittsburgh. Make an earnest attempt to find your next quarterback of the future. And, they haven't hit on a quarterback in the draft since Ben Roethlisberger. It's time to take another shot because Kenny Pickett was obviously not the answer.
No, obviously not. At 22, the Chargers are up next. Pat Fitzmaurice, that's you.
Yeah, Walter Nolan, defensive tackle from Ole Miss. The Chargers need a playmaker up front, and they get one with Nolan, an athletic defensive tackle who can be a disruptive force.
2 Ole Miss guys going back-to-back. Next up, the Green Bay Packers at 23. Debro.
Well, Patty, I'm going to give your guys, the Packers, an edge. We're going to help them in the pressure rate department because since they were middle of the league, 16th in pressure rate. Donovan, I'm going to butcher his name. I know I'm going to. Ezruke, edge out of Boston College. Patty, correct me if I'm wrong. Is that how you say his last name? Or are we all just kind of trying to find the light here?
No, I think that's pretty close to it. Bro. But
there you go.
Yeah, man, he played for Packers defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley at Boston College. So it seems like a real logical fit. I love it.
Next up at 24, the Minnesota Vikings. Pat Fitzmaurice, where do they go?
The Vikings have addressed their offensive line needs in free agency. They could really use safety help, though. Harrison Smith is 36. He won't be able to play forever. Nick Emanwari, safety from South Carolina, top safety prospect who elevated his stock with some insane testing numbers at the combine. A 4.38 40-yard dash, a 43-inch vertical jump. That is NBA caliber. An 11-foot 6-inch standing broad jump. Emanwari is an athletic freak, and the Minnesota secondary gets a little freakier.
Okay. Next up, you have the Houston Texans, who didn't have a very good offensive line, and then they traded Tunsil. So I have to assume here we're looking for an offensive lineman, Derek, in the first round for Houston.
Absolutely, Joey. Just keep this simple. Houston does not have an offensive line, so we're going to give them help there. Yeah. Josh Simmons, offensive tackle at Ohio State. Come on down, baby. Get somebody to block for Joe Mixon and C.J. Stroud, please.
Oh, my God. Poor C.J. Stroud. I mean, jeez. 26, the Rams are up next, having a fun offseason for sure, bringing in a big-time wide receiver and Devontae Adams, who proved he's still got something left in that tank. So now that the Rams have a receiver, Pat, where do they go for this pick at 26?
Let's give Matthew Stafford another present. Joe, let's give him Colston Loveland, who at this point is terrific value, I think, falling all the way to 26. Loveland is big and athletic, good enough as a blocker to be a 3-down tight end, but he could be potentially special as a pass catcher. Also a lot of room for development here. Loveland is only 20 years old. I think he turns 21 just before the draft. So really nice get here for the Rams.
Every year in the mid to late 20s, you'll find the Baltimore Ravens drafting, and what they tend to do is take the best player available. So, Debro, who's the best player available for the Ravens?
It's going to be Greg Zabel, offensive guard at North Dakota State. This fills a need too, guys. Like Patrick McCarry signing with Jacksonville, Baltimore. There were a lot of questions entering last year about their offensive line. They answered those, but this definitely fill a need in the trenches for the Ravens.
Okay. Next up here, the Detroit Lions at 28. Pat, you could certainly go on the defensive side here, or you could go offensive line. I think either is reasonable here for the Detroit Lions. Your thoughts on this pick at 28?
I think it makes sense for them to address offensive line first, Joe, because of the value they're getting here with Tyler Booker, guard from Alabama, and probably the best pure guard in the class. Booker is also a high character guy. Dan Campbell's going to love him. And he is a perfect replacement for Kevin Zeitler, who the Lions just lost in free agency.
At 29, what an incredible season for the Washington Commanders. So they're towards the back end of this first round. Now, they did acquire Deebo Samuel this offseason already. So, Debro, where do they go at 29?
I think they're going to take the guy who blazed the 40 at the combine, Matthew Golden, wide receiver out of Texas. I mean, if you look at the Commanders roster right now, really the only wide receivers on this depth chart right now, Terry McLaurin, Luke McCaffrey, Deebo, and KJ Osborne, who they just re-signed. So give them another starter for 3 wide receiver sets. I mean, Luke McCaffrey's rookie season was kind of lost. What his career looks like is kind of up in the air, but Matthew Golden definitely fills a need for a team that's been filling other needs on this roster through trades and re-signing players.
That's a surprising pick, I think, after acquiring Deebo. Now, look, I love Matthew Golden. You know, that's my favorite guy.
I was just going to say, I thought you would be on board with this, Joey.
I'm very excited about the theory of him playing with Jayden Daniels. I'm less excited the fact that Debo's there now, too. If it was just him and McLaurin, yeah, I've got a good feeling about that. Pat, what do you think about this? Again, this is my guy that I've been bothering Derek about for, I don't know, since October, I feel like. I said, wait till you see this kid. He's really good. And then it just blew everybody away with the 40 time at the combine. Do you think Washington has the cojones to take another wide receiver into this mess and just try to outscore everybody?
I like the idea of fortifying the weaponry for Jayden Daniels, Joe. And really, the surprising thing about Washington, I mean, it feels like they're this up-and-coming team, but other than Daniels, they're not all that young on offense. And they're definitely not that young at the pass-catching positions with McLaurin, Deebo, and Zach Ertz. But so yeah, inject some youth, inject some speed, and boy, a 3 wideout set with Golden, McLaurin, Deebo, throw in Ertz at tight end. Like that is a dangerous group of pass catchers.
I will there. He's a top 5 dynasty pick. I'm sorry, he's a top 5 dynasty redraft pick.
Okay, I mean I'm not against it.
Dynasty rookie draft pick. Excuse me, don't you think?
I'm not against it. And the other thing I want to throw on top of here is Deebo is a free agent after the 2025 season. So maybe just a one.
Okay, that's also a good point there. All right, let's get to the next team here. The Buffalo Bills at 30. Pat Fitzmaurice, back to you.
Malachi Starks, safety from Georgia. The Bills just re-signed DeMar Hamlin to a 1-year deal, but they could use an upgrade at safety. Yeah. They get it from Starks, who, you know, like earlier in the pre-draft process, he was going like top 10, top 15, but Starks didn't test especially well at the combine. But man, if you watch Georgia or have watched Georgia games the last couple of years, you know what an instinctive player this guy is and what a playmaker Malachi Starks is. So really good value here, I think, for Buffalo at 30.
Next up, the Kansas City Chiefs at 31. Debro.
When the end of the last season, your offensive line is held together with used chewing gum and whatever else you can find in the junk drawer of the kitchen, you need to go address the offensive line so Patrick Mahomes doesn't have to be MacGyver every single snap. So let's give them offensive tackle Josh Connerly out of Oregon. I don't know if Jalen Moore is going to be the starter at left tackle. Either way it goes, you need an upgrade because Juwan Taylor is not good on the other side.
All right, so protecting the assets there with Patrick Mahomes. Next up, the world champion Philadelphia Eagles to close out the first round. We're going to be doing 2 rounds, so don't go anywhere. Philly does what with their first pick here in the 2025 draft?
They take Nick Scorton, an edge defender from Texas A&M. Once again, Howie Roseman lets value fall to him and still manages to fill an area of need. The Eagles could use another edge defender. Scorton's a big physical edge defender who can play all 3 downs for them.
I saw Adam Schefter on, and he was talking about how because of the moves that they made this offseason, the guys that they let go, they're going to have 20 picks in the next 2 years. 20 picks for Howie Roseman. That's a lot of draft capital, Pat. I think everybody should be very concerned because he knows what to do with it. And that's also going to allow them with those rookie contracts, I feel like, to lock up whatever superstars and pay them whatever they need. I mean, that makes Philly really dangerous in these years to come.
It does. I mean, they are loaded. Howie clearly knows what he's doing. Just other than letting Justin Jefferson get past him, that was like the one slip up Howie has made. Other than that, he's been pretty golden for the Eagles.
This is how dynasties are built, boys.
Yeah, it is. All right, we're on to round 2. Before we get there, I want to talk about chasing challenges brought to you by Microsoft. Just like the athletes who push boundaries and redefine what's possible, business decision makers today are turning challenges into opportunities. And Microsoft meets you where you are with tools and guidance to help you make an impact with safe, secure AI solutions. Whatever challenge you're facing, Microsoft empowers you with the expertise to say, bring it on. In this segment, we're going to spotlight the challenges that face the organization of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I liken them to Adam Sandler and Billy Madison when he drives up in his REO Speedwagon t-shirt and his Trans Am to the high school saying, hey, remember when I was cool? Yeah, and it turns out he's just not cool anymore because nobody listens to REO Speedwagon anymore. And the Pittsburgh Steelers have to get with it because it's 2025, and I feel like the NFL is passing them by. And that's a problem. They used to always have that quarterback that they can count on with Ben Roethlisberger and an incredible defense. It's the same thing that made the Pittsburgh Steelers special in the 70s. They recreated that format and had success with another Super Bowl run with Ben Roethlisberger and quite a few of them at that. Now they're in a pickle. And maybe in this draft, as Debro gave them Jackson Dart, he is the answer. Let's hope that's what they do, because I don't feel that's what they're going to do. I think they're going to go back to Russell Wilson and continue to live well, in a different time where maybe we're cranking up the REO Speedwagon in our Trans Am, and maybe, just maybe, Mike Tomlin needs to change the 8-track out of his car for maybe at least an upgrade to his CD player. I don't want to get him Spotify yet. I don't want to push the envelope too much. So a huge challenge that's going to be facing them. And of course, remember, Microsoft AI solutions empower you to take bold steps and new ideas to help drive your business forward. With Microsoft as your trusted partner, you can navigate your journey with confidence, finding innovative solutions and reaching new possibilities. Visit Microsoft.com/challenges for more. All right, so let's get to the second round. First pick, Debro at 33 overall. Where do the Cleveland Browns go?
Let's start a little run of skill players here, boys. Give Cam Ward another weapon to go with Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, and David Njoku. We're going to give him Emeka Egbuka, wide receiver at Ohio State. Trusted guy, awesome route runner. I mean, this is airdropping basically JSN into this offense. I love it.
I still like Kevin Stefanski as a coach. I think he's gotten the worst situation to be successful. I really do. I hope this is finally the organization just getting out of his way and the front office saying, look, here you go. Take a quarterback, take a wide receiver. We're going to stop just saddling you with nonsense. I can only hope for the Cleveland Browns' sake that happens. At 34 overall, the New York Giants are up next. So, Pat, they had the Giants go defense with that first pick with Carter. Where do they go for this next one?
Hold on, Joe. I'm still trying to process the news that REO Speedwagon isn't cool anymore. I need a minute to gather myself here. I mean, isn't Keep On Loving You still a top 10 power ballad
Pat,
of all time?
I'm going to keep on loving you, babe. If it's the only thing I got to do. But look, I think we can all agree the Pittsburgh Steelers way of doing things right now seems a little outdated to me. I mean, is it not?
It does. I mean, they keep stacking those winning seasons, but unfortunately,
and those first round playoff losses.
Yes.
Oh, they just keep on stacking up. It's almost Marvin Lewis-esque at this point where we're going here. Oh, that's right. I said
that's a pull.
It's a good thing Scott Bogman's not on this show right now.
All right, so let's turn to the Giants. We're going to give them Donovan Jackson, a guard from Ohio State. The Giants continue to fortify their offensive line.
Okay, next up, the Tennessee Titans at 35. Debro, where do the Titans go with their second pick after getting a QB with their first?
Give Shedeur Sanders a weapon. Give Calvin Ridley a running mate. I want Jayden Higgins, wide receiver out of Iowa State.
Ooh.
People could say this is too early for him. What has he done to push him down the board this entire process for a player that has ranked over the last 2 years 18th and first in receiving grade? He went out and tested like a monster at the combine, 9.92 RAS score, 82nd percentile or higher in the 40, the broad, and the vert. This is deserved. And Sanders deserves another weapon. Give it to him, Tennessee.
I love this. It's bold. I like it. I'm in. 36, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Duval went to the defensive side of the football the first time now. Oh, God, it was so creepy. He's such a dork. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I loved it.
Such a dork.
Every minute of it.
Oh, my God. He's such a dork. 2 years. I give it 2 years before he's gone. Anyway, Pat Fitzmaurice. I feel like, we gave a defensive player the first time out. They should make another defensive pick, but you have an offensive-minded head coach. This is where things get a little wonky.
Yeah, we're going to keep building the defense. Jacksonville couldn't really stop the run that well last year either. So we're going to give them Derek Harmon, defensive tackle from Oregon. Great value here. A lot of mock drafts have Harmon going in the first round. Jaguars fans, Joe, would be beside themselves if this mock draft came to fruition, getting Travis Hunter 5th overall and Derek Harmon 36th overall. I mean, it would be a good day for fans in Jacksonville and London, possibly the Jaguars' next home, but let's see.
I mean, it should be at this point. But then we don't get to say Duval anymore. That would make me very sad. Las Vegas is up next at 37 in round 2. So, Debro, where do they go?
All right, make sure Patty's sitting down for this pick because I know he's going to love it, baby. I know that the Las Vegas Raiders just signed Raheem Mostert to a 1-year deal. That is the placeholder because they need another upgrade on offense. We are going to inject life into this rushing game. We did not see last year. Let's give Marion Hampton, running back out of North Carolina. Now you're talking about we've added Tet in round 1. We got Hampton in round 2 to Myers, Bowers, and Geno. This looks like a legitimate NFL offense, boys.
Debro, are you getting me excited about the Raiders and fantasy?
I am.
My God, where's Tim Brown? What? I don't know what to do with myself here. We can get Marcus Allen back. All right, New England, my Patriots at 38. Pat Fitzmaurice, please tell me it's a wide receiver.
Yes.
Please, for the love of God, tell me it's a wide receiver.
Let me lay this one on you, Joe. Luther Burden, wide receiver from Missouri.
Okay.
The Patriots probably need an outside receiver more than they need a guy who is primarily a slot man, but they just can't pass up a playmaker like Burden here. This dude is electric with the ball in his hands and actually pretty good on contested catches too. Like he will make some circus catches. And for Burden to fall all the way to the second round, I think New England would be pretty delighted to get Luther Burden at 38 overall.
It makes a lot of sense though, Pat, because Josh McDaniels back as OC. We know how important that slot role is to that style of offense. So actually it seems like the perfect fit to me. Now I personally would prefer Higgins, but he's not available. Debro already gave him away, you jerk. All right, let's go to 39 here. Debro, you're back on the clock for the Bears.
All right, the Bears can go a lot of different directions. They've filled a lot of needs already in free agency and stuff. So this team doesn't need a ton. With Dennis Allen as their defensive coordinator, I think he's going to be the pound in the table to add to the cornerback room. Let's give them Maxwell Harrison, cornerback out of Kentucky. I mean, Dennis Allen just did this in New Orleans. When they didn't really need to take a cornerback, they took Kool-Aid anyway. It's not like they can't use an upgrade over Stevenson on the other side of Jalen Johnson. So, yeah, Maxwell Harrison, come on down.
Okay, next up here after Harrison's off the board, 40, the New Orleans Saints are back up on the clock. Pat, where do they go?
They go at wide receiver, Joe. Alec Ayamanor of Stanford, one of my favorite receivers in the class. New Orleans has a need there. Chris Olave has this worrisome concussion issue. Rashid Shaheed is coming off a torn meniscus. Ayamanor's a big physical receiver. He had 13 catches for 293 yards and 3 touchdowns against Colorado in 2023, with all but 2 or 3 of those catches coming directly against Travis Hunter. Alec Ayamanor just roasted Travis Hunter in that game. And Ayamanor is probably also the best blocking receiver in this class, so Saints get a much-needed weapon at wideout.
Okay, so a much-needed weapon off the board here for New Orleans Saints. The Chicago Bears with their second pick in the last 3 at 41. So, Debro, this is a huge draft here potentially for the Bears because you gave them a cornerback. You gave them earlier on. Ashagenti Pat gave them in the first round. So where do they go here for this third pick in 2 rounds?
So we've been talking about the additions and the holes they plugged. Grady Jarrett being one of those additions this offseason. But look, he's not getting any younger, guys. Gervon Dexter has been a solid player, but not a difference maker. I think they still need help at the tackle position. Let's give them defensive tackle Darius Alexander out of Toledo.
All right, so he is gone off the board. The Jets back up at 42. Pat, back to you.
Arianti Ursary, offensive tackle from Minnesota. The Jets could stand to upgrade at right tackle. Ursary is 6'6", 331 pounds, and he posted a relative athletic score of 9.89. There are not many human beings on the planet with the combination of size and athleticism that Ursary has.
Yep, just him and Derek Brown. At 43, San Francisco up next on the clock. Let's help the offensive line here. What do you think, Derek?
Yeah, they definitely do. After losing Aaron Banks to Patty's Packers, we're going to give them offensive guard out of Arizona, Jonas Savanium, if I'm saying that correctly. Look, Dominic Pooney last year was a home run pick. Let's give him a Bash brother on the interior for the 49ers.
Next up at 44, the Dallas Cowboys. Pat, they didn't go sexy necessarily in the first rounds. Was it time for Jerry Jones to pick an offensive weapon here?
Yeah, this is the year. Like, I know a lot of people have mocked Ashton Genty to the Cowboys, but this is a pretty good year for the Cowboys to wait and take their running back on day 2. They get Travion Henderson of Ohio State here. He is an electric playmaker. Now, not an every down guy. He has to tag team with someone else. Henderson did not have more than 12 carries in any game this last fall. Of course, that was partly because Quinshon Judkins was there to share the backfield with him, but Henderson and Javonte Williams, who the Cowboys just signed, that is a really interesting 1-2 punch with Henderson as the lightning in that combination. So, yeah, Trey Henderson to Dallas.
I like Judkins. I liked him on the field, and I thought he had a nice day at the combine, too. So Don't be surprised if he doesn't land in the right spot, that he could be useful in fantasy. Next up here, after Henderson's off the board, back to the Indianapolis Colts at 45, Derek Brown.
Losing Will Fries to free agency and the Vikings hurt. Let's give them a guard, Marcus M'Bow out of Purdue.
Pat, you're back with 46 in the Falcons.
Yeah, Debro started to improve the Falcons' pass defense in the first round with James Pierce. Now let's give Atlanta cornerback to add to their depth. Siobhan Ravel, cornerback of East Carolina. He's 6'2" and fast.
Arizona Cardinals up at 47, Derek Brown. Arizona needs more help on the defensive side of the ball. I know I went trenches, Patty went trenches for the first round. Let's give them a corner. Trey Amos out of Ole Miss. When you're staring at Max Melton and Sean Murphy Bunting as your projected outside starting corners, you might need an upgrade. At 48, the Miami Dolphins are back on the clock. That means you, Pat.
Cameron Williams, offensive tackle, Texas. Miami double taps the offensive line after taking Armand Membu in the first round. They need it. Like, Mike McDaniel needs a good offensive line to protect Tua Tagovailoa and to make his offense go, and he did not have it last year.
49, the Cincinnati Bengals. They certainly could use some help on defense, Derek. Let's get after it.
Oh, they have to. I mean, Trey Hendrickson's future is up in the air. Sam Hubbard retires. Let's keep it in the state here, guys. Let's give him Jack Sawyer Edge out of Ohio State. 9th in hurries, 24th in pass rush win rate last year. Regardless of whatever happens with Hendrickson, this is a need for the Bengals.
At 50, the Seattle Seahawks. How do they continue to remake this offense, Pat?
Oh, Debro is going to love this one. They go wide receiver, Trey Harris of Ole Miss. This is, I think, Debro's wide receiver. Well,
you realize he's still playing with Sam Darnold, Derek. I don't want you to get too excited. I know Darnold was good last year, but it's one good year. Let's not get
Didn't hear crazy. Jordan Addison and Justin Jefferson complaining last year, boys.
Well, I mean, they're pretty good. They're I could throw to those guys.
That's fair.
Currently looking at the Seattle depth chart, Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Jake Bobo are the projected outside receivers for Seattle. I would say there's a need there. And so they had Debro's guy. I think Debro has some wide receiver 2 in the rookie class.
Yes,
big physical receiver who can make plays down the field. Just the sort of guy they need after trading away DK Metcalf.
At 51, the Denver Broncos are up next. Debro, what do they do with this pick?
They need a tone setter. They need an every down running back, and I'm going to give him to him, baby. I don't care about the combine. He ran fast enough for me. I give him Caleb Johnson, running back out of Iowa. Let's go, boys.
I love this pick there so much. Oh, it's such a good pick for the style of offense that they play. It's a good pick. Like, what does everybody worry about? Like, Derrick Henry ran the same 40 time as this guy. Like, what are we doing
He's fast
here?
enough, man. People get crazy about 40 times. He was also 22.2 miles per hour at the combine per next gen stats. 6th best acceleration. Just go back to the film,
just
guys.
Watch the tape.
Analytics. He's
watch
good.
The kid in the games. I mean, like a run first offense there in college too. I love this pick there. If this happens, the Denver Broncos are going to be back in the playoffs again, without a doubt. Seattle up next again at 52. They've got a sandwich pick here. So on the other side of the bread, Pat, what awaits them?
Yeah, their third offensive player of this draft after taking Kelvin Banks and Trey Harris. We're going to give them another offensive lineman. The O-line was a problem area last year. They're going to add Tate Ratledge, an offensive guard from Georgia. Now they get a physical, nasty interior lineman with Ratledge, who was named to the All-SEC team last year.
Tampa Bay is up next. We went on that front line on the defense last time at 53. Derek, where do they go next?
Bowles continues to upgrade this defense, and it's needed, man. Let's give him Benjamin Morrison, cornerback out of Notre Dame.
I know Pat's getting the shakes at 54. The Packers are on the clock, and they don't have a wide receiver yet on this roster from the draft. So, Pat, is it time to make that change?
It is, Joe. Jack Bash, wide receiver, TCU. The Packers do need wide receiver help. Seemed like they were going to be flush at that position last year, but we just didn't see any step forward for Dontavian Wicks. Christian Watson got hurt. He's going to miss a good part of the 2025 season. So Packers could especially use an X receiver without Watson. Besh is 6'1", 214, good ball skills. He was the star of Senior Bowl week, so that's where the Packers go.
All right, next up at 55, the Los Angeles Chargers. D-Bro, what's the pick?
Justin Herbert needs young weapons. I know they just signed Mike Williams. They still have Quentin Johnston.
Well, that doesn't help that cause.
Exactly.
So he's neither young nor a weapon.
Let's give them a weapon, baby. Let's give them a tight end since they missed out in the first round. Let's go Elijah Arroyo, tight end out of Miami. I mean, we're talking about a tight end can definitely be a mismatch for defenses. Top 24 in both yards per route run and receiving grade last year.
Okay, next up here on the clock, the Buffalo Bills at 56, Pat.
All right, I have to gather myself before I pronounce this name, Joe. Princely Umanmielen, edge defender from Ole Miss.
Beautiful done.
Princely Umanmielen. So Buffalo went safety in the first round. Now they're going to go with edge. They did sign Joey Bosa, but a one-year deal, I believe, and Bosa's had a pretty extensive injury history, so they get a little bit of insurance, add another young edge guy with Umanmielen.
Okay, and he said it twice, too. What a professional. He went back there. He could have said it once.
He's just flexing at this point, man.
He could have gotten out. He didn't. That's not how Pat Fitzmaurice rolls, everybody. He's going to say the second time on the outro. Next here are the Carolina Panthers at 57. Back to you, D.
Well, I'm going to go with a guy whose name's a little bit easier to say, although it has been mispronounced throughout this draft process. Let's give Bryce Young a weapon and one of my favorite wide receivers in this class. Going to go back to Ohio State, boys. Iowa State, Jalen Knoll. Come on down, man. Adam Thielen, I know they just gave him a little pay bump. He's a free agent after 2025. Xavier Legette didn't look like he's going to step forward and be the number one wide receiver Carolina is looking for. Jalen Knoll could be that guy.
Back to the Houston Texans at 58. Pat, I mean, you could continue to take offensive linemen here. I don't think it would be wrong.
Oh, yeah. We are. D-Bro said it. I mean, like, they need an entire offensive line. So they're going to go with Wyatt Millum, an offensive tackle from West Virginia. The Texans need all the O-line help they can get.
Still going to be tough, though, for them, isn't it? I mean, rookie offensive linemen all together coming into the NFL, trying to learn everything. It might be some growing pains there for Houston this year. Keep a close eye on that. 59, the Baltimore Ravens. Again, team BPA. D-Bro, what do they do?
We're going back to the trenches, man. I'm going to give him defensive tackle Tyleik Williams out of Ohio State. Travis Jones is a free agent after 2025. Let's fortify one of the best run defenses in the league.
At 60, the Detroit Lions, Pat Fitzmaurice.
Landon Jackson, edge from the Arkansas Razorbacks. Aiden Hutchinson is coming off that major injury. They signed Marcus Davenport in the offseason, but he's old. So Landon Jackson, more firepower off the edge for the Lions.
Washington at 61, Debro.
Apparently, I'm just the Iowa State guy today. I'm just picking all their great players and sending them to teams. I'm going to do it again, guys. A guy that crushed the combine and is a perfect fit for a Dan Quinn defense. We're going Darian Porter, cornerback out of Iowa State. This allows you to move Mike Sandersfield back to nickel. Big physical guy, 6'4", blew out ran a 4.3 at the combine, allowed only a 29.4% catch rate. Just let's dial up the man coverage. Let Dan Quinn go just crush guys with the defense.
This just in, Derek Brown is committed for 2025 to Iowa State. So congratulations to Derek Brown and his family. It was a great conversation in the living room. Buffalo Bills up next at 62. Pat Fitzmaurice, where do they go for this one?
Man, I'm going to fire another dart at the Bills defense. I'm going to give them Azaria Thomas, a cornerback from Florida State.
I feel like this is it, right? If you're the Bills and the Ravens, I think the Chiefs are going to be at a weak point this year. I think you go right and attack and look at the Bengals, the Ravens, the Bills. I think they smell blood in the water. Teams that lose Super Bowls typically don't get back there. This is your moment, Buffalo. Pay attention. Same thing to you, Baltimore. KC is up next year at 63. Derek Brown, you win on the lines. Last time you gave him a tackle on the offensive side. This time you gave him a tackle on the defensive side.
Trenches, boys. Defensive tackle, Alfred Collins out of Texas. You need some beef up front with Chris Jones. I'm going to give him to him.
And last but not least, the Eagles at 64. Pat, close us out strong.
Well, Joey P., since your New England Patriots just poached Milton Williams from the Eagles, they could use someone to add to their defensive tackle rotation. They're going to take Shamar Turner, a defensive tackle from Texas A&M.
I love what the Pats have been doing so far. Just spending on defense. Landry, Spillane. I mean, we had such awful linebacking the last couple of years. I'm all for this. I love this. And we've come almost full circle here. We started with a Shador. We ended with a Shamar. This is a fun draft, everybody. I really enjoyed this. But what do you all think? Give us your favorite team and give us the pick that you would make for them. Drop your comments below here on the YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe. We're trying to get to 300,000 subscribers in 2025, and we can do it with your help. So again, ring the bell till it goes ding for notifications, and don't miss all of our coverage of the NFL Draft, including the NFL Draft live again the first night here on the channel, as we always do. That is going to be super fun, so make sure you join us for that. That'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on. For Derek Brown and Pat Fitzmaurice, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.